Hello, Internet, and thank you very much for tuning into the Cloud Native FM podcast. This is your host for this show. My name is Saim Safdur, and alongside me, my very good friend Richard Simon from Cloud Therapist. Thank you, Richard. How are you? How's the day going?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited for another day of live streaming. And yeah, we've got our field report already. Lots of announcements again from AWS today. So really exciting. It's one of the a couple of the areas that I'm really interested in. Lots of updates in that. So yeah, I'm excited for today. Let's do it.
Awesome, absolutely. So, in a few minutes from now, our field reporter is joining us from, I think, Space Lift booth, and we'll be chatting about all these kind of stuff as well. But for me, exciting thing I really like about it, the serverless databases is now becoming a thing in this AWS reInvent with the launch of AWS serverless SQL, I believe, and is compatible to the SQL Summons capability. So I definitely watch this space as well. And there's a bunch of other AI announcement that is going to be expected one because considering the wave and the buzz around that as well. But let's go straight to our field reporter. Amin, you are now live.
Hey,
Hello. Hi. How are
Oh,
you guys?
glad to see. Can you tell us where you are currently?
I'm actually at the Space Food. That's my company's booth, actually. So I wanted to like join the stream from our booth.
Awesome. That would be great. Can you tell a little bit about the space lift, what they're doing in the cloud,
Yeah,
and what actually they are up to in these days?
yeah. So we are actually an IAC infrastructure as code orchestration platform. So you can think of SpaceSafe as like a CI/CD platform for your infrastructure as code deployments. I'm pretty sure everyone uses like tools like Terraform, asynchronous CloudFormation, Plumi, etc. And we're orchestrating those tools for you.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And speaking of I can share the link in the chat so people can explore on their own what the space lift is.
Yeah,
So here's the link for people,
yeah,
spacelift.io, and you can read more data about it as well.
exactly,
So
exactly.
I mean, if you have some colleagues of you or anybody want to chat about it and have some any experiences to share,
Let
do
me
find
just
out.
see. Yeah, let me just see. Uh, there you go. My colleagues are waiting.
Hello.
Hello. By the way, we have some cool swacks to if someone wants to come to our booth.
Oh,
It's 676. So you can come to our booth and have a conversation with our team members to learn more
cool.
about our platform as well. And I think like everyone is having a conversation right now with other people. It's so busy
okay.
as you can imagine.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
what's I was going to ask you. I mean, what's kind of been customers telling you at the reInvent?
Now majority of our customers and the people at Greenland is coming to our group because they have some problems regarding their infrastructure as code deployments. Either they
Mhm.
cannot automate the deployments very well, or they are basically having some problems with the maintenance and, of course, the administration part of the pipeline as well. So, SpaceX is really helping them to, you know, offload the burden from the platform engineers' shoulders, basically.
Okay,
Oh,
cool.
okay. Is
Yeah.
there any talks people space lift are delivering on the reInvent in any places where people
Uh,
can redirect to?
yeah, we actually do some talks in our booth at our booth. So people come to our booth and join the sessions there. But also we are doing webinars, online webinars. They can join those webinars as well to learn more about it. And one more important thing, we are one of the founding members of the Open Tofu project. I'm pretty sure you must have
Okay.
heard of it.
Yes.
And after the license change, the Open Source project started, and like I said, we are one of the founding members. And the good thing is, Open Tofu is now under Linux Foundation, so it's a Linux Foundation project. and it has a technical steering committee, and it's community focused. It's open source. If anyone has questions about 𝕂𝕚𝕒𝕚, they can come to space if they're out.
Yes, absolutely. And I can give you some perspectives so that some of the audience might be really new what the open tofu is. So I think most of the people are familiar with Terraform license changing. So there's
Yeah,
another version of the Terraform that's more open to the community. And
yeah,
there's a
exactly.
multiple vendors, and the community member is actually making sure the Terraform is accessible for everyone, for every
Exactly.
use cases, and they can
Yeah,
use it for not just for the business, just for the paying or the license version, but they can use it for the different places as well. And Spacelift
exactly.
is one as a contributor of that Open Tofu project as well.
Exactly. As you can see from here, where is it? Oh, there you go. Open tofu is
Yes.
right up there.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, and there's a website for you, opentofu.org. You can actually
Oh, yeah.
check and go and read more about it. I
Yep.
mean, is there a possibility you can go to some of the some of
Yeah.
the booth, and if the
Let's
people
just
can want to talk us?
let's just walk around. And I'll start with the AWS booth area. It's huge, by the way. It's not like our booth, as you can imagine, but
Not
it's
surprised.
it starts from here, as you can
Oh yeah,
see. There we
this
go.
is
This
so big. Oh,
that is so
oh my,
big. Yeah, this is the AWS area. So they
Wow.
have like, as you already know, there are some different solutions at AWS, such as
Yeah.
compute, such as storage, databases, AI, etc. And they have like root for all of those solutions, all of those different solutions. So if we
I
go
mean,
in here,
could you just hold the phone horizontally for a second? Just kind of give us a wide view for a sec.
oh,
there you go.
Fantastic. Wow.
that's
Okay.
big. That's
Look
Thank
so
you.
big.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that's good.
look at this. It is it is called AWS Village. So
Yeah.
Oh,
It's big
yes,
enough. Yes.
that's that's quite rightfully
yeah,
so, considering the space and they have got.
Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Excellent.
you
Yeah.
can come to these booths, for example, if you have any questions about AWS cloud operations, you just come to this booth. If you
Mm.
have any questions
Okay.
about, like, for example, Amazon Connect or Amazon Q, right? You come
Mm.
to these booths and ask, talk with the experts basically to understand
Yeah.
what solutions are there for, basically, right?
Yeah. I've been trying to get a couple of the AWS guys that I know to join us, and they've both been in so much demand. It's been really hard to actually get any of their time. So I suspect a lot of the customers turning up to the AWS Village are probably getting lots of free tech support right now from the AWS guys.
So I'm trying to build out right now. I think I just
Am I back?
Yes, you're back.
I think I'm.
You're
Yes,
back. We can
we can
see.
hear you
Oh,
now. Yeah.
Yes, you're
yeah.
back. Absolutely back.
Yeah, I mean, I was
Uh,
just saying. I don't know if you catch what I was saying. I was just saying that
Yeah.
I was trying to get a couple of the AWS guys to join us on the live stream, but they're in so much demand. I think what's happening is that
Yeah.
customers are using them as free tech support right now. So that's probably what's happening. Oh, we lost them. Did
awesome.
we lose him?
Yes, we lost him. I think might be he's actually clicked the wrong button. That's quite naturally when you're
Okay.
speaking and talking. No worries. He will join in a minute as
Yeah. That's
well.
fine. Yeah.
But meanwhile, if we can pull in the space lift IO in the
Mhm.
screen so people can
Yeah.
see where actually the our field reporter is working on these days. You are
Yeah.
back again. I mean, you're back again.
There we
Hey.
go. Yeah.
We
I think I
lost for a
lost
couple.
connection for exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, no worries. Can you, I mean, can you check, like, is there anybody interested in talking to us? And you can ask some question like why they are here, what's company they belongs to, what their interest was.
Yeah. Let's see. Uh, where can I go?
Live reporting in action.
Yeah, but like the thing is, everyone is too busy, like having a conversation with the people
Oh,
right now. So I don't know if I can find anyone like free. Like let's see, let's
yes,
try that. Let's try that. Let's try that. I'm just
absolutely.
walking around, by the way. Uh, I can see this.
Oh, Viz. Oh,
Uh, let me show you the. There you
oh,
go.
yes.
This is the Viz
They have a
booth.
very good. Oh, they are thinking that I think they're in the
It's
security
really.
space, but oh, that's a very big booth. Oh my God,
Mm. Oh yeah,
very
that's a
decorative.
huge
Were,
booth
they were
actually.
were they
Yeah.
not at KubeCon as well?
Yes, I
Oh
believe
yeah,
they are
they
in the
were.
cube.
They. Yeah, yeah, they were at KubeCon as well. But as you can see, like no one is free right now.
Oh
Everyone
my
is having a
God.
conversation with the people.
Yes,
It's just it's
absolutely.
just crazy.
I know.
Yeah,
I think one of the guys actually joining us from the uh, honeycomb booth. If you actually spot in there, that would be good. Honeycomb booth.
let- I think I saw their booth, but let me just try to find it again. Let's go there.
Oh yeah,
So this is the elastic
these
booth.
booths. Oh yes, they are. I think these booths are very much decorative compared to the other conferences we have. These are the giant
Yeah,
booth.
yeah. These are massive booths.
Yes. Richard, meanwhile, do you have any friends from some of the companies you know?
Not well. I don't know who's there really. I mean, if there's any of the cloud native or open source players, maybe we can go to them. But I don't know who's actually. I've not had a
Oh,
chance
that's
to.
a red hat. Oh, that's a red hat. I think, I mean, can you try to
Yeah,
check? Like, these people are very easier to talk with us, considering
yeah,
in the open
but
source side of things. Oh,
let's
this is a big
see.
one.
Yeah, it is really big.
Oh,
And
yes.
yeah, same story actually. Like
Oh, yes. Yes, I can see it.
yeah, that's the problem with these events actually. So I cannot find anyone. Like I think I have to go there and wait in the line to have a conversation with them. That's basically it.
Oh, yes. There's upwind. I think not is upbound. Is upwind. Is something else.
Uh, yeah, yeah, it's something else. Yeah, something
Yes.
else. There's HDD,
I mean, by the way,
there's
did you see the
is over
Solent
there.
booth in?
So I think I lost you again.
Yes, I think for yes. I speak. I think yes. There's a glitches in there. Nobody has expected. But you're back again. You're back again. Good. You're back again. We can see you going there.
There's a honeycomb booth.
Oh, that's good one. Can you use? I think there's one person. His name is Justin. He will be actually with us in a few minutes. His name is Austin. Austin Parker. He
Austin?
will be actually. Yes, Austin Parker.
Okay. Let's
He will be
see.
with us. Can you chat with someone like is
Is Austin
anybody?
here? All right, Austin. Hi. I'm actually on the live stream
Okay.
with Fahim. Yeah.
Hello.
You're gonna join, right?
Yes, he will be joining us in a 15-minute.
Yeah.
So, Austin, you will be with us for I think for a half an hour conversation. Can you say hi to our audience? Like, what and introduce some of the things around Honeycomb and what you guys are doing currently in the AWS free event.
He's joining the studio now, by the way.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Awesome, great. Can you actually walk us through what their booth is gonna look like?
Oh yeah, I can do that.
Oh, good. Austin with
There we
us.
go.
Awesome. Oh,
Hey,
great.
There
Oh,
we go.
thank you. Thank you very much, Austin. We actually catch up you
hey,
early.
hey, that's fun.
Catch you up early. Amin is our field reporter here for our catching up with the people on the fly, on the spot chat. So we
Yeah,
can ask him to catch you up. But no worries. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. It's been great. So, Austin, can you give us a quick intro of yourself? And I have my co-host. There's actually, we're hosting it from the two YouTube channel. One is my
Hey,
Cloud Native FM, and my friend
hey, how you doing, Austin?
Richard Simon is from the UK. So, Richard, can you say hi to our
Hey,
guest?
hey, Austin, how you doing? How's it going?
Hey, Richard. Good. It's reInvent.
Are they
Awesome.
keeping you busy?
It's always something here. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I was saying earlier,
And-
I was trying to get a couple of the AWS guys to come on the live stream, but they're all so busy. They're all back to back today. So
It's
yes.
yeah, it's back to back. It's always something, and if you're not going to the next thing, then you're trying to get through the crowd of people towards the next thing. So
Awesome. Austin, I think we know you from the OpenTelemetry side of thing and the CNCF side of the thing as well. But it's good to call out. So can you give us a quick intro of yourself? We have been busy this year particularly. And what's Honeycomb and few things we can speak about right now.
yeah, so for those that don't know me, my name is Austin Parker. I'm director of open source at ℂ𝕝𝕠𝕦𝕕, and I'm a maintainer and governance member of the OpenTelemetry project into the CNCF. So, my day to day is it's always something new. Open source world. I think
I think we lost for a couple of minutes, Austin. That's quite expected. I mean,
You lost
glad
connection?
I mean,
Did you lose connection? Yeah,
yes.
it's the
No worries,
connection actually. Yeah,
Yes. But we can expect, I think,
yeah,
there are
yeah.
some, no worries.
He's trying to reconnect now. So
okay,
Okay, got it. No worries.
Yes.
he can try without the video. Maybe if he switches off the video, it might work.
oh,
Yes. And meanwhile, like
you can
actually,
try without the video, by the way.
yes, and I can
There you go.
see Austin once again.
Hey.
Oh, Austin, you're back. You're back,
I'm back.
and awesome. You're back, man.
Yeah,
Great.
sorry, Wi-Fi is
Yes. I know
Wi-Fi
it's
is
so
Wi-Fi.
Yes, I know. No worries. You can speak again. Like you're giving us some intro and talking about some open telemetry side of thing, and we lost you. Can you repeat again?
Yeah. So again, Austin Parker, director of open source at ℂ𝕝𝕠𝕦𝕕, maintainer and governance member of OpenTelemetry. And it's been a really exciting year for OpenTelemetry. We've made a lot of progress towards stabilizing OpenTelemetry, making sure it's kind of ubiquitous. And I think when I come to reInvent, when I go to KubeCon, it's gone from nobody knows about OpenTelemetry to everyone knows about OpenTelemetry, right? You don't
Yes.
have to explain it anymore. People are adopting it. They're using it in both joy and in anger.
Yes,
So that's
absolutely.
been great to see.
And I think absolutely. And I think like one of the CNCF project velocity reports comes up, I think, and when it's always surprises me because if I look at the adoption curve for any of the cloud native project, open telemetry becomes the number one who becomes so much widely adopted. And right now it's becoming a standard. It's not just a tool and technology, it's becoming a standard, and people are moving towards this because of its simplicity and it's actually interoperability with the languages you have. So can you explain a little bit? Right, currently it's in the horizon. What's a new capability in the feature? And you guys are also in the KubeCon as well. So what the interaction so far from the community and right now in the Honeycomb on the customer side of things?
Yeah. At Honeycomb, we recommend, we were a very early adopter of open telemetry here, almost since day one. And I want to say about 3 years ago, we actually started recommending open telemetry to our customers and saying like, this is how you should get, this is what you should use now. And, you know, the majority of our customers now are, both at any size, enterprise, non-enterprise, are all using open telemetry for metrics and logs and um, obviously tracing, but also metrics and logs. Um, we've also seen, outside of Honeycomb, just in the community itself, we're seeing, significant adoption of parts of OpenTelemetry that aren't the tracing side of things, right? Like, yes, tracing is very stable, and people tend to think of tracing when they think of OpenTelemetry, but we've had a lot more adoption of, all three signals over the past really year and a half. And I think what we're seeing, going forward is we've made a lot of progress this year. What's coming next is adding profiling as a signal. So instead of just metrics, logs, and traces, in the future it'll be metrics, logs, traces, and profiles, continuous profiling. And that, is kind of in alpha beta right now, but like next year, I expect that to become more generally useful for people.
Austin, I'm interested in can you give us a little bit more background, because I've heard of profiling, but I'm relatively new to it. So, and just kind of for anybody else, watching, what is profiling, kind of in a nutshell?
Yeah, what is profiling? Yeah, that's a great question. I think at a high level, if you've ever used pprof or you've ever taken you ever used a remote debugger, then you kind of are somewhat familiar with the concept of profiling, right? It's really fine-grained, call stack level, some information, memory addresses, like this super, super detailed information about your application in prod. And how this really fits into OpenTelemetry and how this fits into, I think, cloud native observability in general is most of the time that data is not very useful to you, right? Because there's so many things happening. But when there are certain incidents or outages, or you're trying to kind of investigate something that, some Heisenberg bug that really only crops up in prod, like being able to just go in and say like, hey, give me this like super detailed in-depth dump of everything that's happening in the process is invaluable. And when you combine that with OpenTelemetry metrics and logs and traces, and you have the ability to kind of correlate all these things together and have these signals kind of talk to each other, right? So you could say like, when this metric gets above a certain point, I want you to go ahead and capture a profile of this process. Or if I see this kind of error, if I get some sort of crash or I get some unhandled exception or some sort of log comes out, then I want you to go ahead and capture this profile and send it off somewhere. And these profilers was kind of continuously running, what I call it continuous profiling. And they're able to run extremely low overhead, extremely low memory usage. You can just run them alongside your services, and things just kind of chill out there until you need them.
Right.
But it's invaluable debugging data. And I think one of the things that's made it tricky for people to adopt profiling is that historically you need to put a lot of effort into building those profiling tools, right? Like you need to come up with a way to deploy profiling agents, or you need to like write your own kind of handlers. You need to put all those profiles somewhere. You need to like be able to figure out what's interesting, what's not. And with OTel adopting this, it's going to make that a lot more streamlined. And it's going to make it a lot more integrated into sort of your observability lifecycle. And so I think that's what's really exciting about profiling the OpenTelemetry.
Absolutely.
And
I think
so I was just going to say as well. So are you seeing a lot more sort of adoption by the sort of the more sort of traditional observability sort of space in terms of kind of bringing in profiling into their sort of platforms and solutions?
I think so. It's definitely something I see, more and more and more of. Like there's been several companies that have kind of launched profiling solutions over the past year or so. I think Grafana is probably the most notable. I think as the tooling gets easier and as OTel continues to get more and more adoption, we'll see, more people rolling out profiling tooling. Elastic is another example of Elk Stack is a pretty traditional, observability monitoring tool. They're supporting continuous profiling.
Yeah, I spoke
Awesome.
to a company called ℂ𝕝𝕚 at the Open Source Summit, and I did a talk with them on my channel in regards to that. It'd be great to do something with you guys as well and kind of pick up a little bit more, I think, on that in the future. But I mean, they were kind of in that profiling space, which was quite interesting. That's kind of becoming, all of a sudden, it's becoming a new sort of area to focus on.
Yeah, and Polar Signals is also they're involved in the profiling efforts on ℂ𝕝𝕚, Parka, Elastic, Grafana. It's very much a collaborative effort with the people that are in the space, like everything in OTel, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I think go back to Amin, the field reporter as well. I think the one question we should definitely ask you both, because you are in the conference and we are in the virtually very far, far away from where this stuff is happening. So Amin, first for you, if you catch up some of the announcement today on the news around keynote, or the Swami did a keynote today. So what caught up your attention today, and what you find most exciting about?
I think the updates around Bedrock and all of the Gen AI services, it's all interesting, and the AI is in the trends for a couple of years now. It's hyped right now, and everyone is doing something with AI. I don't know if everyone should do that or not, but that's the situation we are in right now. So we cannot do anything about it. And the other thing is, of course, serverless is really important. They announced a new database for Aurora, Amazon Aurora yesterday, and they are also doing some great stuff with that as well. So I think for this year's *𝕝𝕚, it's all about AI and serverless.
Yes, I would definitely agree. Everyone here is every company here is an AI company, it feels like.
Yeah.
But I think it really goes to show you not just that this is I know there's a lot of skepticism. I think a lot of it's very healthy skepticism around AI as a topic. There's a lot of AI hype out there, but there's a lot of really great. I'm looking at what people are able to do with this, and I think people are coming up with very interesting applications for AI, for Gen AI, and to be frank, fair amount of bullshit. But
yeah,
absolutely.
Any technology, the technology itself is what it is, right? People don't get out of bed in the morning and say oh, I want to go use a database today, right? But people do want to go and save their recipes or keep a travel log or whatever, right? It's not the technology is one thing. It's the applications you build on top of it that really make a difference. And what I've heard from Amazon this week that I think is really great is they're in some ways getting back to their roots, and they're talking about primitives, right? They're talking about we're going to build the world's best collection of primitives to build things on top of and see where you can take it from there. And I think when you think of AI and Gen AI as a primitive, as something that you are building on top of to create features or enable people or whatever, that's what this is, right? It's not, the AI is not the steak. It is in some way the sizzle, and you have to go and make the steak yourself. But,
absolutely. And just a small interruption to all, because we have new friend joining us, and he's Romero. Hello, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes.
absolutely.
Hey, everybody.
Loud
Good
and
to find
clear.
you. I'm here also on the ground, on the field at reInvent, literally a
Oh,
mile
Yeah.
great.
away from where Austin and Emil are, because this thing is huge. But yeah, here I am. Happy to see you
Yeah.
all.
I wasn't able to like catch up with you, Ramiro, so I'm sorry about that.
It's
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
for those of you not here, like the scale of this event is just impossible to comprehend.
It's massive.
It's
It's massive. Yeah.
I've been
and
here
Google
before.
Maps lies to you. Google Maps, you go into Google Maps and you're like, oh, how far is this thing from me? A mile? That's not. No, that's like a mile takes you an hour. Takes like 30
Yeah.
minutes to walk a mile here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because everything is very
a casino
twisty and
mile, a casino mile is
yeah,
different from like
a
a
casino mile is not a traditional mile.
Yeah. Exactly.
Absolutely, absolutely. But glad we have a wonderful guest today. Thank you very much. So, I mean, you definitely catch up some interview with Romero if you find time, and then we actually
Yep.
post it on our YouTube. Definitely, that would be great one as well. And also with Austin, just a small interview with him, so we can actually chat up in the later as well. But I mean, thank you very much if you want to go because
Yep.
we have
Yeah,
actually.
Thank you, Amin. Enjoy the
I
rest of
gotta
your
Yeah.
day.
bounce and chat
Thank
to
you
my
so
Love,
people.
love,
much.
I
Great
mean,
talking to
love
you.
to see
Thanks for
you.
Yeah.
having me on.
Cheers.
And
Bye bye.
I'd
Absolutely.
love to talk. Yeah, hit me up and we'll talk after reInvent.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thanks for
absolutely.
having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Thank you very
guys.
much.
Cool.
Cheers.
Oh, great, great, awesome. So now we actually have two new guests with us. So first up, thank you very much, Romero. And go back to the Ahmed. Ahmed, how are you? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh,
Can you
awesome.
hear
That's
me?
great. 100,
Yes.
absolutely, perfectly fine. Great. So Ahmed, can you give us a quick intro of yourself? Because I noticed you're giving a talk tomorrow. If I look up the
Yes,
schedule.
I am.
Yes, great.
I'm a principal engineer at the New York Times. I work mostly with infrastructure and cloud. So the talk tomorrow, it's going to be about if you have multi-cloud and you have a problem about workloads going from one cloud to another, how to solve some of the cost problem, performance problem.
Ooh.
This is one of, very common when you go through migrations or when you do different workloads and different like clouds because each cloud has better advantage on something. So like you want to focus on that and it basically become a problem at scale. So if you are on a smaller scale, yeah, sure, yeah, we can serve the internet, but like when you move petabytes of data, that's where like you get a lot of money on transfer and stuff. So you want to make sure that you have also your endpoint secure.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And Ahmed, we have our another guest. He's a founder of the Octato and the company is running and the stuff he's doing. I really appreciate. And Romero, can you give us a quick intro? You have been in this my YouTube channel for a lot of so many times. And Richard is also actually we are streaming it from the
Guys,
Richard YouTube channel as well. Absolutely.
Oh,
So Romero,
nice.
can you give us a quick intro of Octato and the stuff you're actually building behind the
Yeah, of
scenes?
course. Happy to, and hi everybody, and thank you for having me once again. It's always fun. My name is Ramiro. I'm
Absolutely.
the founder of Octero. We built a platform to manage ephemeral environments on Kubernetes. A lot of companies use Kubernetes. They want to make it easier for their developers to run all their workloads there, dev, test, CI, staging, and we help them with that. We help them with all their self-service needs, compliance, governance, and all those beautiful things that you need as you scale. When you have 5 people, you always have experts, but once you have hundreds of developers, having a good platform to enable self-service in a way that is compliant and accessible makes a huge difference. And that's the space we've been at for the last 5, 6 years now.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, the ephemeral environment and the dev environment is we've seen a lot of innovation going on, and Octato has been, I think, one of the founding principle of establishing those kind of stuff. And I'm watching this space is really interesting one for having developers because Kubernetes, if you use it in a full-fledged version, some of your bosses want to kill you because of the cloud cost and everything associated with it. So having those ephemeral environment going to be very important for us.
Yeah.
So going to Ahmed back again, Ahmed. It's been first time interacting with you. So Ahmed, can you tell us about your experience in the New York, your day-to-day job, how gonna look like, and also want to hear more about what the talk you're actually giving them. There are, I think, two more people are also it's kind of a panelist talk or something like that. So first thing first, the first question of my, what is your day-to-day job in New York Times?
Sure. What's my day-to-day job is depends on the day, but mostly it's all about Kubernetes. So like Kubernetes or cloud infrastructure in general. I think like the trend were more like few years ago, I was focusing more on customer care, building infrastructure for that. Now I'm focusing more on like how to make what Romero was saying about like dev environment and all of that kind of stuff, what makes developer experience easier. So instead of like
Yes.
letting all engineers trying to invest their valuable time trying to get to like how I gonna run my environment, how I gonna integrate my test, like what's my CI/CD look like, all of these pieces. That's where's my day today. Like strategically looking at opportunities where like we can eliminate all of the pieces that when you go to work as an engineer and like I want to deploy my service, it's easy, it's doable. When you think about a new product, you don't have to go through too many hoops and like figure out all of these pieces. And the problem is not like mostly what I have seen problematic is when you try to do that at scale. So like if you just like want to like serve to multi-region, like how I do that, investing just the time in research. And what we do is trying to surface that, build best practices. So I work with like a very intelligent team in an organization where like we have teams for Kubernetes, we have teams for CDN, we have teams for CI and CD, and we try to combine all of this, not just to make it, hey, there are some tools. We are to make it more like an internal platform, where like the developer comes in, they have their self-service mechanism, they can build on top of it, they can deliver like something on the news app, games app, cooking app, wherever they want to deliver. They just want to like be able to get this up and running.
Awesome. So Rishad, do you have any question for our guest today?
Yeah, absolutely. So Ahmed, yeah, thank you for coming on. I was kind of just curious to ask you. So, just coincidentally, I'm actually talking to one of my customers tomorrow about multi-cloud and running sort of in a multi-cloud. They're actually in one cloud at the moment, and they're kind of looking to sort of in 2025 to maybe move some of or spread out some of their services. So, what's that kind of been like for you? You kind of mentioned scalability and some of the things, but actually it'd be quite good to pick up on some of your tips, and hopefully maybe after your presentation tomorrow I'll be able to do that. But what's kind of been some of the challenges there? What do you see kind of the initial sort of challenges that maybe you guys encountered when you were doing that?
Yeah, so the biggest problem that I see with multi-cloud is you start try to like make things work together that they are not built to work together, and that's when you're trying to pick the best of each and like not use through the right trade-off. Like you don't see that in a smaller app. I don't want to say small application. You don't see that in a single application. Usually applications like are correlated with like their things together, like hey, I need my database here, I need things here. But like when you start like trying to go like back and forth between like, oh, that platform is good, and you don't have a
Yeah.
strategic way of like how can I connect all of these pieces together, you get into a problem where like you might end up having your data in one platform, but having your AI in a different platform, and that
Yeah.
where like it these little details might on a smaller like when you start a POC and when you start non-production application, it's not a big deal. Like
Yeah.
it's like the cost is operationable, but like once you start like move a lot and you start like make it operational and you have a spread sprawl over like hey, I have a couple apps here, a couple apps there, like I don't know like what's my security posture look like. So usually like if you can stick with one cloud provider and get the best out of it, sure, that works. In my experience in most enterprises that I talk with, like that's hard because
Yeah.
like it's just like even if you have like a preferred provider, like you have to be able to like innovate and like use different providers and do all of that work. So like now it's like how to make it easier, how not to make like a team works on one cloud provider when they try to go to another like suffer or like pay the extra cost for
Yeah.
like their choices. These are choices that they make. I don't want to say they make in a vacuum, but like it evolves over the years. So I build a system right now, for example, like build a system and put it on Azure, then I don't believe that system is going to be used with any other system in the ecosystem. But then 2 years later, that system is has to be used by another system, which is in AWS. What's that going to look
Yes.
like? Like, is
Yeah.
it data problem? Like, what is the innovation? So that's where like, so if you can try to stick with one. Also, the other thing that it's basically as much as you can try to get to the open source pieces. That's where I'm trying to drive. Or like,
Okay.
if we are in Kubernetes, it doesn't matter if it's EKS or GKE or AKS,
Yeah.
because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, there's supplemental to it. There's like ounces here and there, but it's the same concept. If you decided
Yes.
to move one thing to another, you can do more standardization on top of it.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and but always, if you are sticking with one cloud, just go all in and don't try to invest too much into areas where like it just like, hey, it's not sustainable. Because I'm an
Yeah.
engineer, I love to build things, but like it's not just about building them; it's about
Yeah.
sustaining and
Yes.
operationalizing them over the years.
Yeah, and next question, I'd like to again get Ahmed your sort of input on it, but also Romero, if you can kind of come in as well after that. So for a lot of these kind of customers that are, like I said, either in a multi-cloud or are looking to kind of, do that in the future, um, is it advisable to try and, because you kind of mentioned open source and maybe some of, using some of that sort of tooling, is it advisable to pull back some of those kind of general or universal services that you require? So things like your automation, things like your DevOps, things like your observability. So rather than using the cloud providers tools for that type of activity, is it best that you either do something open source yourself, or maybe just get like a third party, like a, I don't know, like a Dynatrace or something like that for your observability, versus maybe using the cloud providers observability? What's your Ahmed first, and Ramiro as well, what's kind of your take on that? Because that, I think, for me, spells like you're trying to kind of achieve a sort of an abstraction layer, if you like, which kind of maybe gives you a little bit more independence from both the clouds that you're in.
Yeah. So you ask me first. I'll go for it. Like the nutshell out of it is like, if you try to do that, you have to do it cautionally. Like what I mean by that, like I'm not against like going through like a provider third party app over like it's
Yeah,
build versus buy, and like also
yeah,
the buy is open source. It's just like something that you buy, you don't pay for it, but like you still have to invest time and money in it. So it really depends on like the strategic goals that you have and like the operation, because like we have to be honest, when open source is written to be running, but you have to maintain that. There's an
yeah,
operation
of
cost
course.
coming to it. There's
Yeah,
all of these integrations. So if you are looking to make that investment and you think it's worth it because you have a unique situation problem, I would
yeah,
say, yes, sure, go for it. But we have done like a lot of different controllers, different things that we think it's best. But like if I'm trying to like can be like, at the end of the day, it's all about like where you're at. So for example, Romero can talk more about it. Romero is building something for developer experience, so they would like build on top of open source. Like he can't just use like a provider to provide him with stuff. But like
yeah,
we are, for example, like a CNCF end user company at the New York Times. So like sure, we can build our own stuff for our custom use case, but like we don't want to go so far to make it an issue for us to operationalize this. So I would go like vendor, like my process or my mental process usually is like, is it available open source? How can I run it? What scale do I run it to? You have to make the numbers and see like what is the cost of
yeah,
operationalizing it. And I'm not
yeah,
talking about cloud cost. I'm talking about like people costs, like
yeah,
my time, other people time. It's like this is one of the critical pieces that like people usually miss. It's just like, how am I
yes,
gonna make a cloud provider? Sure, but there's an engineer who gonna debug and deploy and do all of that work. There's an operation team, there's documentation, there's like all of these resources that you have to go for. And I think like it's fair that open source like completely makes sense, gives you, but like what I love more about open source is like the standards. Like when we talk about like hotel, like all of
yeah,
the providers right
Oh,
now have to comply. So if I create this right, I can move from one provider to another, which is like it's more of a different interface. Kubernetes, it's similar. Like it's just like an interface and APIs that I can move
yeah,
from one provider to another. Do I like if you ask me, like for example, like Kubernetes is open source. Do I want to run my own Kubernetes control plane?
yeah,
Mm, I don't know about this. Like really, yeah, like I wouldn't recommend it to be
Yeah.
honest at any scale unless like you really have the investment and like you want to go for something like that
Yeah.
over. But
Yes.
that's my take. Romero, what do you think?
No, that's interesting, and it's funny that you asked that question because I guess probably 50% of the conversations I've had at reInvent have been on this topic. And my idea about multi-cloud has shifted a lot over the past few years. And I think, as you said, ℂ𝕤𝕒𝕚𝕒 Kubernetes has a big part of this, which is I don't think we should be building abstractions on top of cloud providers because I think that is a waste of time. I think for a lot of organizations, they feel, hey, I want to build this abstraction so that I don't have vendor lock-in. But what they don't realize is that then you're building this vendor lock-in to your implementation, which is something that
Yes.
is custom to you, that you cannot hire for. So I think when companies are thinking about going multi-cloud, and in many cases it makes sense, I do believe that using what's best of class for every provider helps you a lot. It speeds you up a lot. Like if
Yeah.
you're, I don't know, if you're using AWS and you say, hey, I'm only going to use building blocks, AWS, and like, I don't know, EBS storage, and I'm not going to use their AI offerings, their IoT offerings, Lambdas. You're losing a lot of like free service, not free, but like services you don't have to build. So I was at a talk this morning where Roblox was talking about, someone from Roblox was talking about how they're using all these different cloud providers. They do best of class, and they were doing things like, hey, for some of our tasks, we use the models that Azure has. From other type of work, we use the models that AWS through Bedrock offers. And to me, that was very interesting of like the idea of best of class. Don't worry too much about the abstraction. As Ahmed said, like the people cost of building abstraction is very high. Now that I'm a CEO of the company and I talk to a lot of our customers, hiring talent is a real problem. So if you're building a very
Yes.
customized platform,
Yeah.
then you can hire for that, which means that any engineer that joins your company is going to take
Yeah.
them 3-4 months before they're ready. If you're using pure AWS, you can hire somebody. You can hire a partner that is an AWS shop. And I was chatting with this SVP of infrastructure, a big hedge fund last night, and that was his kind of mental model was like, I'd rather go with AWS. If they can give it to me at 80%, let's go there. If when we have to replace, we'll deal with it then. For now, keep it
Yeah.
simple, keep it fast. And I think there's a lot of like wisdom on those things. I think Kubernetes really gave us a really cool abstraction for
Yes.
stateful services. I think that's great. Same with OpenTelemetry, same with a few other things out there. But I wouldn't build like an abstraction. At that point, you're better off building your own, data centers and your own fleet. And for some companies, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But it is
Yeah.
it is definitely something that I know it's in everybody's mind. But the more I use clouds, like we ourselves, our product runs on multiple clouds.
Yeah.
So we do have to build it for Kubernetes. And for that, Kubernetes is an amazing standard. But we also build integrations for Azure, for Google Cloud, for AWS, because we want our customers to leverage those services as well. And the bunch of Kubernetes services plus Lambdas is a very powerful combination that you would miss if you cannot access things of every provider.
Absolutely, 100%. I think you rightly mentioned. I think this right now, if we talk to the companies, skills is a huge challenge for the companies. If you
Yeah.
do anything, the Kubernetes is and these infrastructure in the cloud are quite complex to understand. It's not easy, and not everybody is like nerdy like us, spending every day, every minute on the talking about this stuff. They want to spend time, put some stuff in the cloud, and they want to go away. But the Kubernetes and the sophisticated technology want to stay in touch with these things. So not everybody is happy with that. So skills is a lot of the challenge. I think Romero is a good full credit to you and your team because you are actually paving the path for a lot of the developers to making them, they give them a very constituted environment so they can run application and they go away and find time with friend and family and not stay together with a laptop on screen all the time. But Ahmed, before I let you move off from over here, number one, thank you very much for joining us. It's been great. I'm always glad to watch the companies using Kubernetes and these cloud. Really good to hear about the stories. And I will reserve some spot with you to host a full version of the podcast with you. And I believe Richard is doing the same thing as well.
Yeah, definitely.
But Ahmed, before I let you off,
Cool.
can you give us like if people who are actually in the LA, they want to listen to your talk, where should they go? And what is the crux of the talk that you're actually delivering tomorrow?
So the crux of the talk is like you have to watch for your cost at scale. You have to understand like what are you paying for when you're on the cloud. Yeah, the services work best, but like there are certain levels that you need to bring your own, depends on where you're at that scale. So that's basically it. Most of it, it's gonna be like networking, what problems that we went through. Like it wasn't like, hey, we saw this problem all of a sudden. Like we know about the problem, but like when to start investing in that problem. That was the tipping point, and then how to plan it and how to also self-service something like that to make it easier and to make a roadmap out of it, not just to make it like a cost efficient, but make it performance efficient and also security. Like think about security and all of the kind of stuff. So it's at 2:30 tomorrow. It's in Caesar Forum. So stop by. It's MAE 308 if you want to check it out. And yeah, looking forward to chat with all of you anytime. Like we'll talk more on our
Yes.
broadcast, and we would love to talk more about KCD and AWS Community Day and all of the good things that we do in the community.
Yes,
Cool.
absolutely. It's love to talk chat with you, Ahmed. Have a wonderful reinvent and look forward to catching you up in the near future.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks very
Awesome.
much. Good luck with your presentation tomorrow.
Thank you.
Great. So, Romero, we always want to spend, I think, next 10 minutes with you because I
All
love,
right.
and we both actually spend most of the time with the developer community in the
We do. Yeah, great.
CNCF and these kind of thing as well. So, I kind of interesting to know because we are wrapping up the 2024, and I think you have been spending a lot of time in the conference with chatting people on the daily basis on the community, and really wanted to know this what their pain points are and give this feedback to the your Octato team, and then they solve those problems. So what's in the horizon or in the roadmap for Octato customers in 2025?
Oof. Definitely cost is one of the hot topics of the year. You know, at reInvent, at KubeCon, and every other event I go to. Cost is a real concern. Organizations are very concerned of like the sprawling costs of cloud. And for those, one thing that I work with our customers a lot that is very important is being careful of just looking at cost as like how do I spend less money, but looking at it from the perspective of cost, but also ROI. It's like you're spending X amount of money in cloud. What are you getting for it?
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of what we've built over the past few years, and you mentioned like ephemeral environments that destroy automatically, doing the proper cost allocation, doing the proper labeling, so they can't track which team is spending what is key. But part of what we've been building with our customers is models around, hey, how can you prove that, yeah, you're spending more because you're moving, in our case, right, your environments to the cloud. How can you help show that the CTO, the CFO, the CEO of your company that is money well spent? So that's an interesting conversation about how to measure developer efficiency. How do you measure that you're shipping features faster? How do you put a monetary amount on that? So that's what's very interesting, and especially as you know, AI is still the big busty word. Everybody's looking into it. It's still super early, so nobody knows best practices. So a lot of the budget is being allocated to AI experiments. So for everybody who's not there, you know, core infra, dev tools, automation, we have to understand this and help our users, our customers, our community make a case for like why you need budget for dev environments, why you should be investing on this, why you can do a lot more with less, with the right tooling in place. So I've been spending a lot of time that, and it's very interesting as you know the conversation for developer tools goes from talking functionality to another developer, but hey, this is cool, I'm solving this problem, you know, you can now run this on Kubernetes, you can now have this sandbox with a GPU for your AI models, which is my natural space, talking to developers. But when you elevate that conversation to like the leader of organization, which they don't care as much about these things as their KPIs, their business objectives, their OKRs, all these things, it's very interesting how the conversation shifts very quickly from cool features to help me prove value. Help me understand that if I buy this product, my platform team of 20 people is going to be able to do the work of 40. So I don't have to ask for more people budget next year. It's very interesting, and I think it's very present. on everybody right now.
Yes, absolutely. Going back to Richard.
Yeah, I was. So, Ramiro, I don't know if you've heard of the term cloud repatriation, but this has been been thrown around a little bit, mostly by, I think, by the press, the IT press. But I was interested if you have had any customers that you've spoken to where they've just said, "That's it. I've had enough of cloud. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm going back to the data center." Have you had that categorically from any customer at all?
Not at that level of like all or nothing, but I was very skeptical of the whole movement. You know, I don't know if you remember, it was like a big article from, I think it was Andreessen Horowitz, that they kind of put the whole repatriation and why it made sense.
Yeah.
And back then I was like, yeah, whatever, sure. Now I am seeing it with some of our customers where they're not going full on-prem necessarily,
Yeah.
but they are rethinking their investments. A lot of these companies have previous investments on-prem hardware. They have data centers, they have the teams, and they're kind of realizing that, especially I think with the new breed of open source, again, Kubernetes, all these things make it so much easier than before.
Yeah.
They are moving workloads. We have customers, for example, that they run most of the dev workloads on premises, where, you know, SLAs are less important, where you can use a cheaper category of software, of hardware, and then running production in AWS. Because I do think that the unconstrained nature of like the cost in cloud versus I know how much I have to pay to operate a data center. I know I have only like, I don't know, 100 racks. That's it. You cannot go over that no matter what you do. I think is modifying how people see things. And I think it's natural as tools mature. I mean, I don't know if you've been around, but I've been around for a long time. 10, 15 years ago, operating a data center was very hard. Then OpenStack made it easier. Now I think Kubernetes makes it even more easier. Now there are other things there, making it even simpler. So I do think now it's feasible for a team to maintain a decent on-prem footprint for certain workloads with cloud native tools. So it's realistic to do both. And I'm seeing it. Like this year, we actually launched our integration with OpenShift, because a lot of our customers were like, hey, I want to run Octero on-prem OpenShift clusters, which we never thought it was going to be a thing for us. And now we have a series of customers running OpenShift, air-gap environments, physical data centers. So it is real. I mean, I'm of course biased. I spend a lot of time talking with people in the Kubernetes world, but I'm seeing it more than 5 years ago. So now I'm less skeptical of this thing. It might become real. I don't think it's ever going to be all or nothing. I think there's a lot of really good stuff that the cloud providers are building. But it's definitely giving everybody and myself as a software vendor ideas of how can we help our customers live in both worlds.
Yeah. Well, I have two pushback points on cloud repatriation. So you may agree with this or not, but I mean, first of all, I think when people say that, they're not necessarily going back to exactly what they had before. So that's one point. And then if they do that anyway, and no matter what that looks like, I don't think I've never seen anybody calculate their costs in a data center fully. And I mean, end to end, energy, resources, everything. I've never seen that calculation from anybody. So that's kind of one pushback, one skeptical point for me. The other one being is I'm actually working on something as a sort of a definition of what does cloud repatriation mean. And there's like a set of criteria. And I think if you don't meet that criteria, then I wouldn't call what you're doing as a cloud repatriation. So look out for that in 2025. I'll maybe get you back to do some comments on that for me. That'll be really cool to do that.
We'll have to. Sounds very interesting, and I agree. I agree with what you're saying. I think I know where you're going with it, and you never come back.
I might welcome some input from you, so that'll be quite cool. So so I have a very good friend of mine who actually works for a research company in the UK. So they do lots of IT research and they do reports and things like that. He's actually on my monthly talk that I do as well, Class State of Place. He's a regular, and Same's actually been on on that segment, on that show as well. But he actually has agreed to kind of take that and nurture it a little bit more. So hopefully we're going to formulate something for 2025. But I would, I'd love your input on that actually. So
Looking
once we
forward
put
to it
something
already.
together and draft it, maybe I'll drop you a copy and we can have a chat about it.
Oh yeah, no, please do.
Yes,
I love all those things.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think one thing I really love about Romero and his company is doing is that because we know Kubernetes created this huge learning curve for everyone, even though the feature we love the Kubernetes have, but still there's a lot of the skill shortage in the industry. And if some companies like Octato are shortening the curve, making sure you can use the feature of the Kubernetes with the very short bending the curve of the learning curve, that would be beneficial for everyone. So I love what we actually do, Romero. We look for every time I
Thank
spend
you.
time with you, I really learn new things around definitely. And I hopefully I start a new year of 2025 adding you up again and giving you some prediction of the next year as well, because I know you have a great knowledge around platform engineering as well, and you work on the daily basis with the client as well. But thank you very much, Romero.
Thank you
So
very
it's
Thank you for
been
much.
having me.
great. So
Nice
before
to
we
meet you.
wrapping up,
Richard.
how people can
Thank
meet you? Can you give us a people flavor of how they can meet you in the next few days in the AWS reInvent?
Yeah, of course. I'm very active on Twitter and LinkedIn. So if you just search for ℂ𝕝𝕠𝕦𝕕 𝕂𝕒 on Twitter, add me up, send me a message. I'm gonna be here all week. I don't have talk this time, so I'm here just to meet people, learn from everybody else, and develop more of this spicy takes in the market. So if anybody there is listening and want to hang out, please do. LinkedIn, Twitter, that's the easiest. Or Blue Sky too, I guess. It's the
Awesome.
same in all of them. So Arbor, ℂ𝕒𝕒 in all of those places.
Absolutely, 100%. And Romero is like one of the
Oh,
great person in the cloud native community to hang out. But thank you very much, Romero,
thank you,
for
Romero.
Thank you
spending
for
time
having me.
live
Good
from
rest
the
of your day.
reInvent.
That was
Bye
really cool. I've
bye.
never done this before. So it was really cool. Thank you for having me.
Take
And
care.
I'll
Bye
keep
bye.
an
Great. So, Richard, I think you'll enjoy our guest as well. But there's a one surprise for you. And
Oh,
there's our
who is
KubeCon
it? Who is
field
it?
reporter is joining us in, I think,
It's
one, two,
none other
three,
than
go.
Colin.
I'm
Hey,
here. I'm here.
hey, how are you?
Oh,
It's good to see you guys. How you
What's
doing?
what's that secret formula behind you on the whiteboard? You shouldn't be showing
Oh,
that.
geez. Yeah, I don't have as cool of a background as you. I'm in my natural element today. That's like developer lifecycle crap.
yes.
That's all the fun
That's
stuff.
your next secret formula. You're giving it all away now, Colin.
They're sure. It's all open.
But Colin, I think like we're missing you. I think next time we will make sure you
Yeah,
will be in
man.
the
Yeah, definitely.
reInvent for doing the
Likewise,
field
our field
reporting for us,
reporter.
because yes.
I wish I had the chance to go to reInvent.
It's
Not
like he's
this year.
on
We got a lot of
strike.
work to do.
He's not joining us for this one. He's on strike and wants more money.
I was gonna be at KubeCon India next week, and I just couldn't get all the extra details done in time. So I'm upset about that. But I'm not gonna miss the 24 hours of travel. But I feel like it was only fair that if they travel to us, we should travel to them. And so I was hoping to get out there, but we'll have an employee of our company representing out there too. Maybe we can try to figure out how to get him live, but I haven't.
Oh yes, yes,
Poor
yes.
guy.
That would be a great
You're gonna rope in everybody to be a field reporter, Colin.
100%. It's too much fun.
You're delegating already.
Right. It's
But
like,
Colin,
yeah. Go ahead.
But Colin, your skills are so like I'm chatting. I think a lot of our viewers really enjoy the conversations you did on the. It's not easy to catching people on the fly. In the reInvent, we're having the hard time chatting with people because everybody is busy and talking about cloud and this and that. But you did a wonderful job. Tons of appreciation for that one as well. But we definitely want to give you in the more places, because we need a field reporter like this for a lot of these big conferences as well. And reInvent is a big one. Like I think there's 60,000 people. I heard people in there. So Colin, did you hear anywhere around 60,000 people, any of the conference?
That's insane. We really like. I definitely want to take you guys to All Things Open next year. That's my favorite conference of the year. And I think there were just over 5,000. That's not 60,000 though.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to find, what I want to do is I want to cut through all the noise. I want to go to the conferences that, or I mean, I'm not going to talk smack about any conferences, but sometimes we go to these conferences and they just become t-shirt or swag conventions. Right. And I want to try to find a way to cut through all that noise and give people the opportunity to highlight the difficult things that they're working on. Especially the folks that are working on those products and aren't necessarily like the marketing teams and everybody else. So how do we give them a stronger platform to talk about the real technology? Okay. And because there's a tremendous amount that we can learn from that. That's hidden away by marketing walls and paywalls and badge scanning and all the other things. So that's my mission.
Yes, absolutely.
That's
I
great.
think it's very tough. Like, people are traveling from the different places, representing companies, representing different personas. And as you mentioned, like, I think the conference right now, there's so much conference. Like, I don't see a month in a calendar with no conference is happening at all. So
Right.
that's how much of the conference flooding have. And conference-driven development is on the horizon because of this thing. Every time you go to the conference, there's a new version rollout, there's a new instance rollout, there's this rollout. But then the people figuring it out. Yes, I really appreciate how much the stuff is coming in my way, and I have so many opinions to choose from. But who in the hell tell me when and why? That's the big question of everyone. Developer, companies, customers. Like, where I do use this stuff? Tell me, for God's sake, tell me, where should I use this stuff? Even the news from the reInvent is so much. It's very tough to catch up all those news. And we try to figure out which one is actually taking into consideration out of it as well. But I think you've been actually, Richard also actually participated, did podcast with a lot of the guests, and also been into some of the great conferences and you actually been, I think KubeCon, I hope you attended twice of them.
Yep.
What is your key takeaway on the conference in general?
The big one this year was, platform engineering was the big key. I think one of the nice things is it wasn't so AI heavy as it was last year, which was really nice. But I think a lot of people are starting to understand, and different collections or different personas in the companies as well. Like, the leadership now is starting to understand and care. And when we look at AI, right? AI, I think we said it when we were live as well. AI surfaces the challenge and the need for the technology that's going to run AI. And so if we're able to go back to our bosses and say, hey, we have all this extra work that we need to do that's important so that we can actually get to that point. It seemed like this year there was a lot of focus around those types of things, like operationalizing things. But also, I mean, there was a ton of observability platforms. There was a lot more cost observability and things there. I think it's the underlying thread really is there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of options and a lot of choice and a lot of tools and a lot of new things, and there's no possible way that we can keep up. And so how do we get information and get intelligence and make better decisions? Seems to be a big driver for that, but also for all of this AI ML stuff. It's the same thing. How do we get better information, better intelligence?
Absolutely. And the same question to the Richard, because he's been to some of the UK conference. He spent, I think he hosted some panel talk in there. So Richard, what's your overall key takeaway on the conference in 2024 in general?
Well, I mean, I think the common thread is AI and generative AI, definitely. So no matter which conference you're going to, whatever tech you're talking about, whatever solutions and platforms, AI and generative, specifically generative AI, really. Let's not kid ourselves with anything else. I mean, AI has been around for longer than I was probably alive or something. So Turing tests were kind of done in the 40s or 50s or something. So it's been around for a long time. But the explosion has been really around generative AI, especially for this year. So we've seen a lot of the kind of come in most areas. It's been kind of quite positive. So things like GitHub Copilot and stuff like that in the development sort of area. We've seen some negatives around sort of some of the announcements like Devin and what have you. Those have kind of been, badly received for good reasons, according to some of the people I've spoken to and watched their videos and so on. But yeah, generative AI has kind of been the main theme. But overall, I think all the conferences. So thank you again, Colin, kind of for covering KubeCon for us so well. I think my sort of overall take has been really positive. I think there's other areas that we're still not looking at, as much as I would like to see. For example, there's, and I just put the question to the previous guys that were on. There's kind of a stagnation that I'm seeing around. Okay, so you're kind of saying, we should do multi-cloud. Okay, but where is the advice in terms of how do I do that? Where is the opinionated opinions, as I would call them, kind of, in terms of how to do that, what tooling to use? Do I, and I just put the question about abstracting a number of the tools, because people are still worried about, vendor lock-in and things like that, even if you're in a multi-cloud. Multi-cloud was kind of some of the reasons that people started talking about multi-cloud was actually to avoid vendor lock-in. For whether that's true or not, again, that's a separate discussion. But okay, so now you've kind of set me down this path of multi-cloud, and I can see the advantages of doing it. But then how do I do it? What are the tools? Where are the tools? So do I go to Azure Arc, because Microsoft is saying, well, we can manage all your Kubernetes clusters regardless of where they are. So do I just use Azure Arc, even if I'm in AWS as well? Or do I use a third-party tool, which kind of takes me out of those multi-clouds and kind of starts giving me that, or building me that abstraction layer? So that was kind of one of the areas that nobody's really exploring. Nobody's kind of got any hard and fast sort of rules and opinions on it and things like that. And I'd like to see that, because 18 months ago, 2 years ago, we were talking about super cloud, something that would kind of come in and be an abstraction layer on top of all of your clouds. You would kind of, create something at that super cloud layer, as you kind of your, provisioning and infrastructure as code, whatever would be done at that layer. And then that platform would know, not only where to send it, where to build that, environment for you, but it would do it, based on costs and what's the cheapest one today, and and work out all the differences and things like that, and then actually provision that workload into that cloud at the right time, at the cheapest point in time. So that was kind of an ideal that people were talking about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, and that's not materialized. We've seen some tools, from Outbound and others, or Upbound rather, I should say, and others are kind of do that on a sort of a Kubernetes sort of layer, but not really, that kind of definite sort of, super cloud layer. I know of closed source tools. There's some third-party tools that actually do that, or at least they kind of aim to do that. Again, they're not sort of, all the functions, not everything is there, but certainly when it comes to provisioning, they do that. They will do that. You can say, I want it in AWS, I want it in GCP, I want it in Azure, and it will actually go and do that for you. So that's there. But again, that sort of thing, I'd like to see more of it, because we're taking customers in the direction of multi-cloud, but then not giving them the tools, not telling them what the what are some of the kind of rules and so rules of engagement, if you like, when it comes to doing that.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of new tools and a lot of capabilities, but I wonder, one discussion that we have a lot really is, we talk about the ideal a lot, and we want to be multi-cloud, we want to be risk averse, we want to have supplier diversity, we want to allow the developers to choose the tools that they want at the right time. And there's a lot of complexity sometimes that comes with flexibility. I think we're getting to that point where we have the tools we need, but there's a lot of talk and not a lot of demonstration, folks that are practically showing it. And we've had a lot of discussion over the past year with companies who are trying to do it. And one of the common things is like, we tried it, right? We tried it, and now it just doesn't scale, or we had a team that rejected it, or it didn't meet the financial constraints, or some things there. And there's this undertone of, what is engineering for the business constraints, or like the reality of things look like. But that's not an attack on, I'm not saying that it's not realistic at all I'm not saying that at all about being multi-cluster, being stretched, being kind of cloudless, or, our cloud is all there and our developers don't know our cloud is there and everything else. But nobody's really talking about, like, what are the constraints? What are the things that are keeping us out of the ability to do that? And I'd like to hear from you guys a little bit too, from a community like the CNCF that hosts, KubeCon, and the type of attendee that's there, their reasons for attending, what they're motivated by, versus something like reInvent, which is, it's focused on one large company and how to consume those services, and create exposure for some of those managed or unmanaged services that are through AWS. But there are a lot of companies that have agreements and deals, and simplified procurements and all kinds of things related to which cloud provider they use. And I feel like that handcuffs us sometimes, and maybe that is actually a reason for why we aren't seeing a lot of that at scale demonstration of being multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, multi-provider, all of those worlds. And so I was going to ask you guys too, is I know we're talking to people who are there to provide their technologies and promote the products and things there, but I am curious to hear from them as well, and about the types of attendees and what people are interested in and motivated by, and what kinds of questions they're asking, because it may be different at something like reInvent than it is at KubeCon. That's one of the reasons I'm disappointed that I'm not there, is I'd love to be there to see that and get that firsthand.
I appreciate the question. I think, and again, I'm kind of in agreement that there's a lot more to do. I would love to, at KubeCon, I would love to see a, let's not call it an exec track, but let's call it a kind of a CTO, CIO, type of focus on some of the talks. No matter how much tech we do and how much explanation we put out, I think there's always going to be a need to explain the technology to somebody who's kind of in the higher echelons of the IT sort of world. So the CTOs, the CIOs kind of the world. So I would love to see a little bit more of a take up on that side of things when it comes to how the CNCF organizes KubeCon. So some just have a little track, maybe a couple of days of strategy kind of talks, where we're not so deep in the weeds of the technology. And as much as I love doing that, because I learn new stuff, and I was just saying to, again, the previous guest, was that, hey, profiling is now a thing. And I only heard about it like properly a few months ago. And that's cool. And I love that. That's something, for me, that's something new to learn and go and kind of chase and understand. But again, I spend my time kind of, talking about the technologies and how these kind of, are going to benefit customers. What is the ROI if we do this? What is the benefit of me adopting this new cool thing? So I would like to see a little bit more of that. I
believe extending to the Richard point as well, because I think what I try, and I'll look forward to the Colin's views on that in that as well, because from the outsider, I can see as the reInvent is kind of a CIO, CTO, or the business leader type of a conversation where you can watch and see and then get back to your company and provide to feedback to your internal employees. And then you build out your roadmap according to what you heard in the reInvent conference. Versus the KubeCon is basically, there's a new tools come up. how to eventually in 2019, 2010, the most of the focus around telling people how to educate around Kubernetes, Prometheus, Grafana, and all of these cloud native tooling. This year, we see another wave of it. We have stuff already running in the production environment, and we have seen challenges. So, are these challenges is coming from we have untrained, unskilled individual working on our team, or we don't have best practices in place? That's why these problems are coming up. And what is the solution to solve those problems? So it's still kind of a following four different angle that the KubeCon is giving us, compared to the reInvent giving us a one angle of the business oriented discussions, and then you go back and feedback your team as well. But I do know there's some conference talking about how you can use EKS for this particular scenario, but that's not always the case for you. That might be the case for the only 2% of the people or 10% of the people, where the KubeCon talk around like we heard from the community and we try to make it a present in a way that most people can align themselves with what is presenting to the attendees.
100%. I'm hoping we see more demonstration of like multi-product solutions, if that makes sense. One of the strengths of AWS are that these services are tested, are proven, right? They help you by understanding what those services do for you beyond what the core technologies are. Like EKS gives you a managed control plane, right? So you don't have to deal with a lot of the extra things that you'd normally have to manage on your own. That frees up time to work on things that you need to be focused on. And it also makes it so that you don't have to have the same skill set that you would if you do Kubernetes the hard way, right? Like, which is so popular to talk about. But we see all of these different vendor solutions, and we see a lot of specific implementations, and we see maybe somebody demoing a new operator or type of thing there, or a new cost control tool or something. But what happens when you put all that stuff together? Where are those stacks? And not the ones that are necessarily branded and are an IDP or something else, but yeah, how do those get built? And what are the technologies under the hood? Let's elevate those and highlight those. I hope we see more of that soon.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And I think we spend a lot of time on the platform engineering working group to discuss these kind of things as well. And I think it's been great to see a lot of the community and people's chiming in to add their flavor of opinion into these challenges as well. Because I think there's a lot of difficulty in organizing the event. Is like sometimes people feel like, oh, it's all around developers and the contributors and these persona. That's not enough for me as a CIO or CTO. This discussion is not for me how to run and install and configure Argo CD in a Kubernetes cluster. And then you go into the other side of the branch where the business leader tell you, oh, I have this customer, he's been doing this kind of stuff. We are talking to them on daily basis. And then developers, oh, this is not for me. Let's move on to another place as well. So being a conference organizer, it's not an easy job. There's so much unpacked to cover, and so much you need to go through as well. So I think it's tough now. But I think, as you mentioned, I would love to see some talks around if I came into the conference and people tell me what are the best practices, principles I can leverage in my organization if I am able to find my place in that certain scenario. So that could be a good addition for that one. But I think we definitely call out to see what's actually happening in the cloud native London. That our key take on in the next one, because there we might have all field reporter at the same time.
We'll all be
Yeah,
filled
we
with-
should.
yeah.
I wonder, we should try to see if there are going to be more end user booths, or some folks from the CNCF end user group, and just go. I wonder if we can go highlight them and talk to them and ask them about what they're building and how they're building. I think that would be really cool, now that I think about it.
Absolutely. So, Colin, we have next 5 minutes before we actually wrapping up. So, what we decided to actually recap some of the news, and then we ask you to react on these
Yes,
these
I'm
news.
down. Let's do it because I want to know what's happening. I've been working all day, so you guys are a treat.
Yes, absolutely. So one thing I think we start with the big good news first. One is like, what's your take on Amazon Aurora D SQL? Is a serverless database, and they actually announced I think yesterday and today there's a lot of things going on. So serverless database. Do you like to try out, or do you try to away from this?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. What do they even mean by serverless?
What does that
Richard,
mean?
what does that
Yes.
mean?
That's a good question.
Yes, absolutely. So if you watch some of the documentation, it's telling you that DSQL can automatically handle updates without downtime,
Okay.
with zero impact on application performance.
Hmm.
So
So it's a
is
same
this just
serverless.
is this just like multi-cloud or like multi-clusters kind of stuff, like automatic failover and all that, or in scale from zero, or is there more to it than that?
Is basically, I think what it's trying to do is they're trying DSQL as a serverless distributed SQL database with virtually unlimited scale. So let's say you have a more demand for the database. It eventually, without noticing you, it can span up the instances. It spun up something that actually database is full, or it's you don't have more capacity for doing that app. It's doing the same serverless functionality, but it's still a database. It's not an infrastructure. It's it's something that database requires for their compute cost and everything, and that's handled for you. But still, it's a lot of the confusion. What is the database mean for them in terms of serverless? But that's a one big news I heard until now. Now let's go back to the another news. EKS Auto Mode, they actually announced yesterday. So already we know AKS Auto Mode, GKE Auto Mode, and now EKS Auto Mode. So what's your interaction for this one?
I actually saw Dario was talking about it on LinkedIn, from Dario from
Yes.
Classics, and he was mentioning they've had it for a while, or they've been running it for a while, and so I guess maybe it went GA. But
Yes.
I mean, I auto mode is great, right? It's amazing because it takes care of so much that you'd have to do on your own, especially the auto scaling pieces. So I think it's going to be a great thing. I just hope
Yes.
I hope it saves you money as much as, like, I hope it scales down as helpfully as it scales up. Is all I'd say. I mean, many of
Absolutely.
us
Absolutely.
have set up something on AWS or any other provider, and then come back in a week and say, "Uh-oh, I forgot to turn that off." So maybe auto mode can figure that out for us too.
Absolutely. And I think the full idea is that you don't need to worry about any of these compute and intricacies details of the setting of the cluster. So just streamlining your cluster management for compute, storage, and networking, because we know we need to do a lot of stuff. We need to spin up the control plane is given to you by the cloud provider, but then you need to set up your nodes. Then you have, I think, in their ECS, and that they have Fargate kind of functionality, and now they're adding another ladder into this that's called auto mode. You don't need to worry about it, everything done for you, and then you install, run application whatever you like.
Backups too.
So yes, backups too, absolutely. And on the same topic, one thing I really interested to hear about, that they actually announced EKS hybrid nodes. So basically your nodes or in the your own premise environment or in the edge, you can make those available as the EKS node, and then you run stuff on there.
Oh, that's cool. That's nice.
So
I wonder, is
yes.
it are they stretched? Are they talking about stretch clusters? So like your node and a node that's hosted by AWS as the same cluster, or are they talking about just remote clusters that happen to be like remote nodes that happen to be in your infrastructure only?
Yeah, I think it's kind of, I try to learn more about it. Like I'm trying to see it, it's quite filling the gap of the Arc kind of scenarios,
Yeah,
where
that's really
Azure
nice.
Arc tell you, yeah, oh, your nodes are there, but the control plane on the AKI on the Azure side, but the management layer is somewhere else. And then the control plane is not managing their own nodes in the Azure, but also somewhere in different cloud or in the on-premise architecture. So I think that one of the key notes they actually adding on their chat is calling around the data latency and some of the regulatory requirements where you do not push anything outside of your on-prem infrastructure. It's kind of interesting to see how people react to these things, because this is quite interesting.
Well, I really like that because it's bringing those capabilities to you. And one of the big challenges for privacy and for data is it's that data sovereignty, right? And all the networking complexity and setup complexity to be multi-cloud and to be, like we're talking about, or to be hybrid, it can take a lot. So that one sounds like a really, really good one for some of the small businesses, and especially folks that already have some existing infrastructure that they can repurpose. If I don't have to deal with VPCs and some other things and setting up direct connect and then doing all of that extra stuff, I'm sure there's some legwork to do, but that could be awesome. That could be really cool.
Yes, and Richard, you have some news around Bedrock and other things.
I do.
It's your time to call out.
I'm going to nerd out a little bit on Bedrock. So Bedrock rocks is kind of my my message. So many announcements I think today around that, and rightly so. I think it's kind of, since it was announced, I think last year's reInvent, it's not really sort of had a huge amount of focus in my opinion. So it just kind of, I think, needed that next step, which is really cool. So lots of stuff around. Let me see if I can pick out on some of these. So knowledge bases now support the GraphRag, which is really good. So that's your sort of retrieval augmented generation. You can actually do a lot more of that now within Bedrock. So that's actually very useful. And again, obviously, knowledge graphs are kind of a sort of a structural representation, if you like, of any data interconnects that you have. So that kind of gives you sort of a relationship sort of view of any data points that you might have. So that's kind of knowledge graphs. So that's really useful, because that's obviously you can apply on existing data that you have as well, which is quite cool. Data automation, which was a really good one again. So Bedrock data automation, basically transform any unstructured multimodal data for generative AI. So basically, you don't have to do any of that kind of cleaning stuff yourself. Just drop it all into the data automation side of Bedrock, and it will automatically do that for all of your crap old 20-year-old, 30-year-old databases and spreadsheets and PDFs and whatever else you have, basically, which is quite cool.
I like that word, automatic.
Yes, and it will do all of that automatically, which is, I think, probably the best part of that. There was a Bedrock guardrails multimodal toxicity detection platform as well. So it's a bit of a mouthful, but essentially just kind of guardrails around what you use Bedrock for and how you generate it, what you can generate with it, and so on as well. The other point I wanted to mention, which was again quite important, I'll come back to the AI bit in a minute, but this was quite good in the presentation from today, or the keynote from today, and that was the amount of kind of give back that really essentially AWS has done over the last sort of 12 months. So the sort of global education packages and platforms. Let me just read out some of the numbers for you. So 2 million plus learners trained globally with free AI skills. $28 million worth of scholarships provided to underserved students. $46 million worth of scholarships provided to future builders. So these are people who actually using AWS tools or want to use AWS tools to build kind of AI platforms and apps and agents. 29 million people received free cloud computing skills training. So this was actually a target that they had to achieve by next year, but they've actually achieved it 1 year ahead of schedule, which is fantastic. And then the AWS Education Equity Initiative. So this is a initiative to empower organizations to educate, again, underserved learners globally through cloud computing and AI. So I think that's really very generous of AWS. Obviously, there's always a lot more that can be done, but I think those numbers probably speak for themselves in terms of how much really AWS is kind of putting back in. So I always kind of try and maybe sort of balance things out when people say, kind of the big bad three sort of, cloud providers, and don't put all your eggs in one basket, as they say, and so on. But I think I'm very much, I appreciate that feedback or that give back rather, from AWS.
Yes.
So the biggest announcement around AI is Amazon Nova. So Amazon Nova is the new models that have been announced by AWS. Unfortunately, they're exclusive to Bedrock, so you can only really play with them if you're in Bedrock. But let me read out some of the details on those. So Nova Micro is the text-only model. It's a 128,000 token model. Nova Lite is a multimodal, low-cost multimodal model. It's a 300K tokens platform. And then you have Nova Pro, which is a highly capable multimodal model. Again, 300,000 tokens on that, lots of other various features. And they have another one called Nova Premier, which is still in training, apparently, at the moment. So it won't be out until early 2025, according to the announcement. But that's actually part of the story, because that's only the model announcements. Obviously, they've also announced chipsets, so they're trying to really kind of compete or looking to compete with NVIDIA. And there's also a big focus on some of the other areas that they want to kind of get into as well, which is all around sort of the AI space as well. So lots happening in that space from AWS, and I think that's kind of the sort of maybe the sleeping giants kind of waking up a little bit to these activities and catching up with some of the leaders like OpenAI.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
by getting everything into one platform, I mean, they're doing a tremendous amount. That's really awesome to hear about the training as well. The kind of the foundation of developer experience or good developer experience is, can you teach somebody something with this tool? And so what they're doing is they're creating that knowledge worker base. And so the more students that we can see coming out of college with some cloud skills, right, that can be ready for the job market, that'll be amazing. But it makes total sense. I wonder when we're going to hear the first announcement of the movie on Amazon Prime entirely made with Nova.
Well, I think the model said the multimodal models can do about 30 minutes of video, so we're getting there.
Absolutely. I think AI kind of going in the same route of what we have. Some comes up with the Kubernetes, that the one things comes up and it's adding more things into the table. So what I'm trying to see is, if you look at Amazon Bedrock, they actually added some AI tooling for the guardrails, something around policy enforcement, and then I expect sometime in the near future and can add something around Bedrocks to can do a troubleshooting, efficiently using troubleshooting to minimize and actually predicts what's happening in the cluster and tear it down or spin it up or do these kind of stuff. So there's another AI landscape is building up. So that's kind of a worry for me as well, because how much developers need to learn these skills is going to be, once again, adding these things are tremendous, but you need skilled people for that.
Yeah.
And we need more and more on that as well. And
Yeah.
meanwhile, Richard added something on the notes. Richard, can you tell us what that is?
Yeah. It was just the summary of some of the announcements. Somebody wrapped it up quite well in a LinkedIn post, so I thought I will share that, and that talks about the Nova model, but also recognizes the fact that AWS has kind of come out with all guns blazing at this reInvent as far as that's concerned. So, challenging, as we said, OpenAI in the sort of foundation models, NVIDIA in the chips space, and XAI in the supercomputing, and also in further investments in Anthropic as well. So, lots of, I think, things happening in AWS. So it's going to be an exciting 12 months until next time around, and see what they do next time around. But yeah, Trainium, I think we talked about yesterday, their chips announcement as well. So that's kind of had four times performance gains, I believe, slashing the cost by 50% in comparison with NVIDIA. So that's a really good focus point, I think, for AI training and inference models as well. So yeah, that's all good.
Awesome.
An $8 billion investment in Anthropic.
Awesome. But unfortunately, guys, I need to stop you because we need to unfortunately wrap this up. But Colin, we'd love to have you again tomorrow. Might be the same time or earlier when you like. We have some guests actually lined up for the tomorrow as well. And we'd love to hang out and we can try to do a year in review kind of a style, because this might be the last live stream of 2024 in terms of the conferences. Yes. So we definitely want to do more chat with you as well, but I always love to hang out with you as well. But unfortunately, guys, we have to wrap this up because we're 11 minutes off what the schedule is for today. But I hope everybody enjoyed the conversation today. So before I signing off, huge appreciation to Amin Alamdar for actually doing field reporting from us from the LA, and Austin Parker joined us from the Honeycomb booth. Romero Brazila joins live from the LA, and he's talking about Octato. And then Ahmed is actually giving a talk tomorrow. He joined us, and he's actually New York. He's actually a platform engineering as New York Times. So it's been great to hang out with him as well. Tomorrow is AWS Serverless Hero is joining us at 12:30 onward, and hopefully 1 p.m. once again Colin join us, and we'll do a recap of everything happened in this year as well. But thank you very much. So Richard, Colin, can you say bye-bye to our audience, and then we're signing off from today.
Thanks, everyone. Good to see you again, Colin.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.